Hello students, I hope everyone is happy and healthy. In today's class, we will see about physical and chemical equilibrium, volume 2, unit 8. So after studying and understanding this lesson, we will be able to describe the meaning of equilibrium, explain the dynamic nature of equilibrium involved in physical and chemical processes. We can state the law of mass action. We can deduce the expression for equilibrium constant Kc and Kp. We can also establish the relationship between Kc and Kp. We can predict the extent of reaction using equilibrium constant. We can state Le-Chatelier's principle. We can explain the effect of various factors that affect the system at equilibrium. We can derive Van Hoff's equation. In today's video, we will see till establishing the relationship between Kc and Kp. Rest we will see in next class. So before moving into lesson, I want you to look at these three images and think what really happens. When you see image number A, you can find the apple which is cut open and kept will turn into brown in color. The skin will turn brown in color. In the B image, you can find all the banana ripening process of the banana. Initially, the banana peel, which is in green color, will undergo a range of color change and finally it will turn to black and finally it will decay. The third image, you can find a nice silver anklet. Initially, when you get silver from a jeweler, a shop, it will be all silver, it will be shiny and silvery. But in course of time, as you wear the wear and tear happens, what happens to the silver? The silver will turn black in course of time. So when you give this black tint silver to the jeweler, again he will polish and give you the silver anklet. The one which you gave and the one which you got is different, because while he is polishing, what happens, he will remove the surface of the outer layer, the blackened silver which is on the top layer. All the silver is lodged which is in the top layer, the blackened ones. So the exact weight of the anklet which you bought is different after undergoing the process of polishing it. So, all these kinds of physical and chemical changes are happening in everyday life. So, in these three process, what happens here is the process is going to happen in one particular direction. There is no backing direction. For example, when you can't get the brown apple to turn into the same one when you initially cut the apple. You can't get the banana which is almost in the verge of decaying to the nice green banana. The same I told you, no, as even if you polish the silver, the weight of silver is going to be different. So all these processes are going to happen in one particular direction. There is no the reversing of the direction of the process. So not all the chemical reactions will happen in only one direction, but there are few cases, a few reactions where both forward and backward reaction happens. So one such example we will see now. The reversible reaction between the oxygen and hemoglobin. It's a very good example, as this reversible reaction is happening every minute, every second inside our lungs, which is very important for a survival. So what happens in our lungs is that we have hemoglobin, oxygen present there. Both will combine and they will form oxyhemoglobin. It's nothing but a hemoglobin carrying oxygen. We call oxyhemoglobin. This oxyhemoglobin will travel via your blood and will reach all the cells in the body. And the cells at the particular temp and the pressure and the ambient situation there will make this oxyhemoglobin to release oxygen to the cell, and finally you get back your hemoglobin, which will again be carried via blood and it will reach your lungs. So in the lungs at any instant you can find hemoglobin, oxygen and oxyhemoglobin, all three things at any given time you can find them. So what happens there, oxygen will combine with hemoglobin, it forms oxyhemoglobin, and again this oxyhemoglobin will release oxygen, it will turn into hemoglobin. So this is a very good examples of forward and backward reaction, which is the reversible reaction. So what is reversible reaction? In chemical reactions, the concentration of the reactants decreases and that of the product increases with time. So in reversible reaction, what happens? Initially, the product of the reaction proceeds. The formation of the product happens. Upon the formation of product, the reverse reaction begins to take place. So there is going to be a particular stage at the there is going to be a particular stage where the rate of the reverse reaction is equal to that of the forward reaction, indicating a state of equilibrium. Study chemical reactions. There are three crucial aspects. First is the feasibility. Feasibility means whether the reaction will happen or not, whether there is a possibility for a reaction to happen. All these things are studied under the subject called thermodynamics, the subtopic in chemistry. So, second aspect is the rate of the reaction, whether the reaction will proceed in a fast manner or moderate or very slow is dealt by chemical kinetics. Kinetics means speed. We'll talk about speed in kinetics. So, chemical kinetics will deal with the rate of the reaction or the speed of the reaction. So, last is the extent of reaction, whether the reaction has completed or in what step has this reaction reached, how whether the all the reactants are reacted together to form the product. All these things can be explained by using equilibrium constant. So we will discuss the types of equilibrium, the significance of equilibrium constant and its relationship to thermodynamic quantities and the response of chemical equilibrium to change in the reaction conditions in detail now. So can you see these two images? What really happens here? In the first image you can see two boys are playing in seesaw. What happens when you sit on seesaw? It will go up and down. But here the seesaw is not moving and it's in a state of a stable position. So if you see the middle point of the seesaw, you can find that both the boys are sitting from equal distance from the center point of the seesaw and almost both the boys are in equal weight. So what happens? The system will reach a state of equilibrium where there is no uh, where there is no change in the position. The second example is the tug of war game. What happens in tug of war game? You can find two teams pulling a rope. When one team is going to use more force, what will happen to the rope? The rope will move towards the team which is going to give more force. But what happens when both the teams are going to give equal force? There is no movement of the rope. The rope is going to be stable in one position. So we can say the system has acquired a state of equilibrium or the system is in a state of equilibrium. So what is equilibrium? In reversible process, the rate of the two opposing reactions equals at a particular stage. So the speed or the rate of the reaction will be equal at a particular stage. So what happens at this stage? The concentration of the reactants and that of the products do not change with time. So in the state of equilibrium, there is not going to be any change in the concentration of the reactants. So this condition is not static and it's dynamic. This is not a static condition but it's dynamic because both forward and reverse reactions are still occurring with the same rate. Both the forward and the reaction and the reverse reaction is occurring, but both the reactions will occur at the same rate or same speed. So next we will see about this equilibrium can be classified into two types, physical and chemical equilibrium. First we will see about physical equilibrium in detail. The definition for physical equilibrium is a system in which the amount of matter constituting different phases does not change with time is said to be in physical equilibrium. So this involves no perceptible physical change in the system. There is not going to be any physical change happening in the system. To understand this physical equilibrium, let us analyze the following phase changes. For example, if you take solid liquid equilibrium, where a system where solid and liquid is going to be in equilibrium. So let us consider an example of melting of ice in a closed container. The temperature of the container is going to be 273 Kelvin. This system will reach a state of physical equilibrium in which the amount of water in solid phase and the liquid phase does not change with time. I told you when the state of equilibrium is there, the amount of water means the concentration of the water, uh, the concentration of water which is in the solid phase ice and the liquid phase does not change with time. So in the process, the total number of water molecules leaving from and returning to the solid phase at any instant are equal. So when this system is going to attain a state of equilibrium, what happens? The water molecules from ice, they will turn into water? No. That molecules will be equal to the molecules which are turning from liquid water to ice. So if some ice cubes and waters are placed in thermoflask is nothing but your normal flask where there is no, uh, it's a system where there is no, the heat will not escape from the system nor the matter will escape from the system. It's a closed system. And the temperature of that thermoflask is going to be 273 Kelvin and 1 atm pressure, 1 atmospheric pressure. So there will be no change in the mass of the ice or the water. So at equilibrium, what happens? The rate of melting of ice is equal to rate of freezing of water. So water in solid, which is the ice, which will be in equilibrium with water, which is in liquid forms. So this above equilibrium exists only at a particular temperature and pressure. So again, when you talk about equilibrium, we need to measure, we need to, give a condition at a particular temperature and pressure, because only at a particular temperature and pressure such kind of equilibrium will exist. So the next is the temperature at which the solid and the liquid phase of a substance are at equilibrium is called melting point or the freezing point of that substance. So if they ask you define melting point, what will you write? The temperature at which the solid and the liquid phases of the substance are at equilibrium is called melting point or the freezing point of that substance. This is the definition for melting point or the freezing point of any substance. So next phase is liquid vapor equilibrium. Similarly, we can say that there is going to be equilibrium that is being existing between the liquid phase and the vapor phase of the substance. For example, liquid water is in equilibrium with this vapor at 373 Kelvin, 373 Kelvin and 1 atm pressure in a closed vessel. So we know the boiling point of water is going to be 100 degree C. So this is given in Kelvin, 373 Kelvin. Normally, how do you convert? 273 Kelvin is equal to 0 degree Celsius. If you had plus 100, so if you want to change Kelvin to, you want to change Celsius to Kelvin, you have to add 100 to this, then you will have 3 373 373. So this is going to be 100 degrees C and 1 atm pressure in closed vessel. So then what happens? There is going to be an equilibrium existing between water which is in the liquid state and between the water which is in the gas phase. So rate of vaporization is equal to rate of condensation. The temperature at which the liquid and the vapor phase of the substance are at equilibrium is called the boiling point and the condensation point of that substance. So when they ask you to define what is boiling point or condensation point, then you will give this definition. The temperature at which the liquid and the vapor phases of the substance are at equilibrium is called the boiling point and the condensation point of the substance, of that particular substance. So the third type is the solid vapor equilibrium. There are few systems which will turn directly from solid to vapor phase. So such systems will come under this kind of equilibriums. For example, if you take solid iodine which is kept inside a closed transparent vessel, what happens? The solid iodine will evaporate. As it evaporates, you can see there is going to be a cloud of purple color which is going to form, because solid iodine is going to be colorless. But when you find the vapor iodine in gas phase, it will have a purple color. So initially what happens? Initially the reaction will, after 5 to 6 minutes of placing your iodine inside the closed vessel, you can find the intensity of the color increasing and the cloudy color, the intensity of the color increasing, because the forward reaction is going to proceed. So at particular time, what happens? The intensity of the color will start to decrease, because the reverse reaction is happening. The iodine which is in the solid gas phase is again going to come back to your gas phase, then it will come back to solid phase. So what happens? After 10 to another 10 minutes, the intensity of the color of the violet color of the cloud will not change, because then the system will, we can say the system has attained a state of equilibrium, and there is going to be no change in the intensity of the color. So what happens here? You can write the equilibrium expression for this also. We can say iodine, which is in the solid phase, will be equal to iodine which in gas phase when solid vapor equilibrium is attained. So another good example is the camphor. Camphor is nothing but your karpuram. So next we will see another kind of system where equilibrium involving dissolution of solids or gases in liquids. There is going to be equilibrium attained when you dissolve a solid or gas in liquids. First we will see solids in liquids. So when you add sugar to water at a particular temperature, what happens? The sugar will dissolve. But you have more and more of sugar, there is going to be a point at which the dissolution of the solution or the sugar will stop dissolving in the water, because the solution would have been a saturated solution at that point. So what happens there? There is going to be a dynamic equilibrium established between the solute molecules in the solid phase and the solution phase. So what happens? The rate of the dissolution of the solute, which is the sugar solid, is equal to rate of the crystallization of the solute in sugar. So sugar in solid will be in equilibrium with sugar in solution. When the sugar in solution. The second system is gas in liquids. The very best example for such kind of systems is your aerated drinks. All your Coke, Pepsi, and all kinds of carbonated or aerated drinks. So what happens there? When a gas dissolves in a liquid, normally for a gas to dissolve in a liquid, you need to give pressure for that. At a given pressure, there will be an equilibrium established between the gas molecules, which is in the gaseous state, and those dissolved in the liquid. So, as I told you, the example, very good example for such system is the carbonated beverages. So, following equilibrium exists. So, carbon dioxide, which is in gaseous phase, will be in equilibrium with carbon dioxide in solution phase. So next we're going to see about chemical equilibrium. I told you there are two types of equilibrium, physical and chemical. Now we're going to see in detail about chemical equilibrium. So let us consider general reverse reaction. A plus B giving you C plus D, where A and B are going to be your reactants, C and D are going to be your products, and between you have the reversible sign. So what happens? As the concentration of the product increases, initially the forward reaction is going to produce C, and C plus D will increase. Products will increase. As more and more the C and D is going to be produced, more and more of the products are produced. What happens to C and D? They will collide with each other and react in backward direction, or the reverse process will happen. So this leads to increase in the rate of the backward reaction. As the rate of the reverse reaction increases, the rate of the forward reaction will decrease. Eventually what happens? The rate of both reactions will become equal at the state of equilibrium. So these two graphs are going to represent this condition pictorially. For example, x-axis both are going to be time. The first image, if you see, y-axis, it's the reaction rate, the rate of reaction. Initially what happens? The forward reaction will increase, and finally it will decrease. The reverse reaction will start from this thing, and you will find both reactions are going to be at in equal place, and will happen in equal rate, because here you can find the state of the system is going to be in equilibrium. The second, if we talk about the concentration, initially the concentration of the products will increase. In course of time, what happens? The reactants, the C and D formed will collide with each other, and it will form A and B. So the reactants will increase. So the system will have no equilibrium change at one point, because both the rate of the forward reaction and that of the reverse reaction is going to be equal. So, in chemical equilibrium, we will talk about two types of equilibrium. One is homogeneous, and another one is heterogeneous. Sorry, girls, this is heterogeneous. Heterogeneous equilibrium. What is homo? Homo means same. Homo means wherever you find homo hetero, Homo means same. Hetero means different. In homogeneous equilibrium, what happens? All your reactants, all your products are going to be in same phase. Same phase means either everything will be in solid or liquid or gas. There is no combination of the phases. One good example is your hydrogen reacting with the iodine to form two molecules of hydrogen iodide. So all these things are going to be in gaseous phase. So if you see another example is this acetic anhydride, which will react with water to form acetic acid and methanol. This is a reversible reaction. You can find all these things are going to be in aqueous phase, which is the liquid phase. So now moving on to heterogeneous equilibrium, I told you hetero means different. So what happens if that is going to be homo, where you only have one kind of uh, reactants and products which are going to be in the same phase. Here the exact opposite, the reactants and products of the reaction in equilibrium can be in different phases, then it is called homogeneous equilibrium. In such system, if there is going to be an equilibrium, then that equilibrium is called homogeneous equilibrium. An example is your water, which is in liquid phase, will be in equilibrium with water, which is in the vapor phase, gas phase. So another example is the calcium carbonate, which is a solid phase, will react to give calcium oxide plus carbon dioxide. Calcium oxide is again a solid, but it will also release carbon dioxide, which is gas. So next we'll study about law of mass action. It's very important because we will be applying this law of mass action in coming derivations. So the law of mass action, what the law states is, at any instant the rate of chemical reaction at a given temperature is directly proportional to the product of the active masses of the reactants at that instant. This is what the law statement says. So, so at any instant, at any particular time, the rate of the chemical reaction at a given temperature or constant temperature is directly proportional to the product of the active masses of the reactants at that instant. So, the rate of the reaction is going to be proportional to the reactant concentration to the power x. So, this x means the stoichiometric coefficient of the reactants, that will be like how many moles you have, and the square brackets will represent the active masses, which is nothing but the concentration of the reactants. So this active masses can be derived from the formula N by V, where N is your number of moles involved in the reaction and V is the volume of the container, which can be expressed in dm cube or liter. So this is the law of mass action. So next we will derive the expression for equilibrium constant Kc and Kp. So for that, first we have to consider a reversible reaction where X molecules of A will react with Y molecules of B, giving L molecules of C plus M into D. So where A and B are going to be reactants, C and D are going to be products, where this X, Y, L, M are going to be stoichiometric coefficients of A, B, C, D respectively. So when you apply this law of mass action, the one we study now, what happens? What it states, at any instant or a given temperature, the rate of the forward reaction is directly proportional to the concentration of the reactants to the power x. So we're going to apply it first for the forward reaction. Forward reaction, this F rate of the forward reaction, RF, F means forward reaction, is directly proportional to concentration of the reactants. What are the reactants here? A, B. A, B to the power x and y, those the respective stoichiometric coefficients. So, in order to remove this proportionality symbol, what will you add? You need to give a proportionality constant. So, for this reaction, I am giving that as Kf. F means again the forward reaction. So, this is going to be the rate of the reaction for the forward reaction. Again, apply the same thing for the backward reaction. Here, the reactants are going to be your C and D. So rate of the backward reaction or the reverse reaction B means backward reaction, is directly proportional to concentration of C to the power L and D to the power N. So again, if to remove this proportionality symbol, I'm going to use a proportionality constant. Here it's going to be Kd, Kb, B means backward reaction. So Kf and Kb are proportionality constants. So at equilibrium, what happens? The rate of the forward reaction and that of the backward reaction are going to be equal. So RF is going to be RB. So RF is going to be RB. So I'm right. If LHS is equal to RHS, then you can write both the RHS are equal, right? So I'm writing the expressions for this and this in LHS and RHS. So what happens? I'm just doing a normal rearrangement where you get K. I'm taking this KB this side and this A power X and B power Y to this side. So if it is going to be coming in the this side, if it goes this side, then it will come into denominator. So you get an expression like this. So this entire thing you can write as Kc, which is nothing but equilibrium constant in terms of concentration. This is the symbol for equilibrium constant in terms of concentration. C here means concentration. So next, where Kc is the equilibrium concentration in terms of active masses. If they ask you to define what is equilibrium constant, then you can write this definition. So at a given temperature, the ratio of the product of the active masses of the reaction products raised to the respective stoichiometric coefficients in the balanced chemical reaction to that of the reactants in a constant is known as equilibrium constant. So all these things, the equilibrium constant, what we gave was based on the concentration. But when you talk about the reactants products which are in gas phase, then you have to mention the equilibrium constant in terms of partial pressure. Because normally when you talk about gases, you need to you need to describe them based on their partial pressures. So instead of writing C, I am writing P. P means partial pressure. So Kp will be equal to there the square brackets again will differentiate the concentration. So I am removing that square brackets and I am writing just P, okay, on everything. So you get an expression like this. The formula will turn into this, where you can say Pa, Pb, Pc and Pd are the respective partial pressures of gases A, B, C, D respectively. So this is how this is what the expression for the equilibrium constant in terms of Kc. Next, we'll see about the relationship between Kc and Kp. Relations between your equilibrium constant in terms of partial pressures and equilibrium constant in terms of concentrations. For this, you have to consider a general reaction and a condition where all your reactants and products are going to be ideal gases. Ideal gases in real life, getting an ideal gas is very difficult. It's just an hypothetical situation. So, writing a reversible reaction XA plus YB, which is a reversible reaction, is giving you LC plus MD. So, the equilibrium constant, like last derivation we arrived right Kc, you are writing the same thing. Since the reactants or product are going to be gases, you will have to write this Kc in terms of Kp. So, I'm writing Kp. Kp is the expression for this. So we know that now I am going to involve a new equation, which is the ideal gas equations. PV is equal to nRT, which is an important equation. You might have come across this in thermodynamics. So as we know, I'm just rearranging this and writing it as P is equal to, I'm getting down this V. So N by V is equal to RT. Since the active masses are, since we know the formula for active masses is nothing but molar concentration, which is the N by V. We can write this P is equal to N by V RT as P is equal to active mass into RT. So now I am going to write the same thing for each of the reactants and the products. So based on the above expression, we can express the partial pressures of the reactants product as Pa to the power x, which is nothing but your active masses of A to the power x into RT. If you write for everything, you will get something like this, and this you will substitute in equation 2 Kp. So instead of Pa power x, you have to write this entire terms for each thing. You are writing it, then you will get an expression like this. Now you are going to apply a simple max where you have when the bases are same, you can add the powers. So here the bases are going to be just RT. The powers are different. So I'm just adding L plus M, and down we are adding X plus Y. So I get an expression like this. So next again I'm adding a similar math where you have when you have same bases and they are going to be in division, you can just subtract the powers. So a power x by a power y is going to be a to the power x minus y. I'm applying the same formula for this particular portion. Then you will get concentration of C to the power L and D to the power M by concentration of A to the power X and B to the power Y. We get RT is equal to the power L plus M minus X plus Y. This you can write as delta Ng. I'll tell you what is delta Ng next page. So when you compare equation 1 and 2, we can just write the expression as Kp is equal to Kc into RT to the power delta Ng. Delta Ng is nothing plus L plus M minus X plus Y. So we can say delta Ng is the difference between the sum of the total moles of the product minus sum of the total moles of the reactants in gas phase. That's why I've given delta Ng. G represents gas phase. Delta N is the difference between this sum of difference between the total moles of the product and that of your reactants. So you need to write three conditions for this. When your delta Ng is equal to 0, what happens to the Kt? Anything to the power 0 is going to be 1. Rt is just going to be 1. Then what happens to your Kp and Kc? The relationship between Kp and Kc, they are almost equal. One example for such a situation is where you have hydrogen gas and iodine gas, H2I2 gas will give you two molecules of HI. So when I talk about when you apply this in delta Ng, what happens? L plus M is nothing but 2, and X plus Y is going to be 1 plus 1 2. So 2 minus 2 is going to be 0. This is a very good example when you have delta Ng is equal to 0. For this reaction, the Kp will be equal to Kc. So another condition where you have delta Ng is going to be positive. Then what happens to your Kp Kc value? Kp will be higher compared to the Kc value. So another example for this, your ammonia gas will give N2 gas plus 3H2O. This is a reversible reaction. When you apply delta Ng formula there, what happens? This is going to be 3 plus 1, 4 minus 2. What happens? The answer is going to be 2. The symbol is going to be positive. So here, if for this reaction, the Kp will be high compared to Kc value. The next reaction, next in delta Ng condition is delta Ng is equal to minus negative sign. So what happens? Kp will be greater than Kc. So Kc will be high in comparative to Kc. So another example for this equation is 2H2 bar G plus O2 bar G. Both are in gas phase will give you water molecule. 2H2 plus 1 O2 will give you 2 molecules of water. So when you apply delta Ng formula, what happens? You will have 2 minus 1 plus 2, which is 3. So 2 minus 3 is equal to minus 1. The sign is negative. So for this reaction, Kc is going to be higher compared to Kp. So these three conditions are very important. They might ask you in 1 marks or 2 marks also. And when you write the relationship between Kc and Kp derivation for 5 marks, you have to mention these three conditions. Then only the entire thing is complete. Next, we will find equilibrium constant for heterogeneous reaction. As I told you, what is heterogeneous reaction? Heterogeneous equilibrium. Heterogeneous means you have reactants and products which are going to be in different phases. Such system will have an equilibrium, then that equilibrium is termed as heterogeneous equilibrium. Example for an heterogeneous equilibrium here is a gas solid system. For example, this also we already saw this example, which is nothing but your calcium carbonate, which is in reversible process giving you calcium oxide, which is a solid, and carbon dioxide, which is gas. So we can write the equilibrium constant for this reaction as Kc is equal to concentration of calcium oxide into calcium dioxide. Here the x value and L value and M value are going to be just 1 and 1. And down you will write calcium carbonate. Again the x value is going to be 1. The powers are just going to be 1. So here you have to apply a condition or a condition where a pure solid always has same concentration at a given temperature. So if the system has a pure solid, then the pure solid will have the same concentration at a given temperature, provided the temperature is constant. As it does not expand to fill the container, there is no expansion in solids like as it happens in gas. So, we can say the number of molecules, uh, uh, the concentration of the pure solid is constant. We can just say the concentration of the pure solid is going to be constant. Then we can say the concentration of calcium oxide, calcium carbonate as well as calcium oxide are going to be same. So we can just write Kc is equal to concentration of carbon dioxide. So the equilibrium constant is going to be entirely dependent on the concentration of the carbon dioxide. So since carbon dioxide is a gas, we can just express the equilibrium constant for this particular reaction in terms of Kp, partial pressure, because we are talking about the carbon dioxide, and the equilibrium constant will be just Kp is equal to PCO2, partial pressure of carbon dioxide, because carbon dioxide is a gas. So another example for this heterogeneous system, we will take a liquid gas system. So here you are taking the example of carbon dioxide reacting with water to form H plus and HCO3 minus, carbonic acid. So the active, again we saw right, active masses of a pure solid is going to be constant at a given temperature. The same goes for a pure liquid also. So active masses of a pure liquid, I left this word, pure liquid does not change at a given temperature. So here also you will find only water is going to be a pure liquid. So instead of you can just ignore this water term in the equilibrium constant, and you can just write Kc is equal to concentration of H plus into concentration of carbonic acid divided by carbon dioxide. Okay, since we are not writing this equilibrium constant in terms of partial pressure, because even liquids are involved and you have two liquids here. So the concentration term is given as Kc is equal to equilibrium constant is given as H plus, concentration of H plus into concentration of HCO3 minus per CO2 divided by concentration of CO2. This will be the expression for equilibrium constant for this particular reactions. So that's all for today's class. We will see the rest in the next class. Thank you, girls.